we are focusing on next-gen business processes, intelligent automation, and robotic process automation. And we have our robotics expert from SMP, Brian Rotes, who is going to walk us through some of the key points for RPA. And with that, I'm going to kick it off to Brian. This is being recorded for replay. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. As Jennifer mentioned, we're going to talk about some next generation business process that many companies are taking a look at. And if you're joining us today, you've heard the term, seeing the growth of the organizations that are taking advantage of this technology and solution and want to learn a little bit more. So hopefully we help you do that today. You know, one of the ways in which I like to start talking about this is coming to the realization that, you know, the Internet of Things is actually here, and we have a lot of companies that are already investing and seeing significant ROI by doing so. There's, you know, reports and analysts say 50 billion things connected by 2020. They're looking at, you know, the spend in this space to be upwards of 300 billion globally by 2019. You're seeing revenue increase of somewhere around 27%. These are significant in terms of change that our industry is really going through. You have folks like the automotive industry taking data from every car that's being traveled, right? So over almost 780 million miles of data about how people are using these devices out in the wild. When you look at the other industries like manufacturing and the types of data that they're looking to keep, you have petabytes, right? Medical industry continuing to analyze how patient care can be improved and to uncover new studies. And really what ends up happening here is you get this tidal wave of data and ask from the user community, which creates some challenges for us to try and meet that expectation of the end user. You know, and at the end of the day, this is all international. This is something we've been creating as a society over, 30 plus years or more, and really developing this network, which, if you think about it, is a step above the largest things we've made today as a society, short of a city, connecting all of these, machines and engaging everybody across the world in terms of analyzing data and looking at it from anywhere, any corner of the universe. As we connect all of that, I think over the next, 10 years or so, we're going to see this. Every person that has a device, they will have one, right? They're not going to be looking for how do I get connected. It's really going to be how am I getting the most bandwidth and lighting up what I'm looking for. We continue to ask new things like Google Home or Alexa to do things for us and change our experience of what we're looking to get out. One of the challenges with this is, downtime still continues to happen throughout organizations. And so the OISG group did a study, and looking at that, you see 60% of companies said human error is the most common cause of downtime. That has a really big impact when these are repeat offenders. You have, IT support downtime when measured across the full impact can have a significant impact on the ability for folks to generate revenue for their organization. So that problem that exists, we've seen this over the years in desktop support. We've seen this in application support. People don't always test their code. You try and throw the best security at something and buy everything under the sun. You still have that human in the corner that found a different way to do it. Or we just are trying to go super fast and we end up making mistakes and creating chaos for ourselves. So as we go down this journey, we're talking about digital transformation and how we, as users, not IT, but as users of technology, can make it work for us. And we're getting very inventive in different ways in which we're trying to change the way we operate and work to be more efficient, whether that's to generate more revenue, whether that's to spend more time with our families. It's causing businesses to look at how they're operating today and focus on their core business and balance the cost between what's core to them and what's not core to them. And if they do this, they can increase their productivity, which is, at the end of the day, will increase their profitability. So in order to do that with people, we have to give them applications and data wherever they want to. Work has, moved on from being a location of where we actually access information, but more moving to this activity that we do. Transformation agenda is, when we work with our clients, tends to be centered around a business outcome, not necessarily this doing technology for the sake of implementing a piece. You have innovation and agility, people looking to take that and as they become more agile, extend that mobile experience. And while they do all this and change their business, they really are looking to protect that brand and their customer trust. So that gets pushed down into IT of how can they help them achieve that. And you have folks looking to go items here, right? Modernizing their data centers for infrastructure agility, security, and scalability to support business innovation and growth. They're looking to integrate public clouds so that they can give their developers freedom wherever they want to access information or infrastructure to run their code, but also make sure that they're using them effectively, right? Putting things out there that should be and bringing things back in-house that maybe have a better experience for people. And then empowering folks to, again, be mobile and really focus on that. Now, that's an area we're going to focus on today, is that digital workspace. When we look about, those transformational categories, there's big things that people are trying to do underneath there. And automating IT has always seemed to be an operational piece of how do I take care of my infrastructure. What we're going to talk about is how do we actually automate what people are doing inside of their workspace so that they can focus on other things. Before we do that, I'd like to just kind of take a step back and go through where we all came from when PCs and computers really started coming into business. In the 90s, we had a lot of success over networked systems where people would share information and conduct business. And then in the late 90s, we started to virtualize. And we said, we can't just keep buying iron. There was a better way to do it, more efficient, more cost-effective. We then took that and brought that through in 2008 into virtual desktops. We used the same concept to, instead of continuing to produce hardware for end users to use it, we went back to a more mainframe type technology and centralized that compute so anyone could access it anywhere. Now, all of that was made successful because there was a vision, execution, and people adopted how to actually work within that framework. You notice that there's many things up here like, Windows 8, Windows 2000, which was very content in giving you a blue screen or failing on you that wasn't successful. So we didn't do those things. And then as we move into today, we got to think about where we want to go and how are we going to get there and achieve it. And it's big disruption, as I've mentioned, but we've done this before. So as we look at through the Industrial Revolution, it really, as it first started, the purpose was to have more goods produced at a lower cost. An immediate change included the production of it, right? What was produced, where it was produced, its cost, efficiency, and it was really taking an agricultural economy into ones with machines and manufacturing, right? The invention of usable electricity, steel, petroleum, during the 19th century led to the second industrial revolution. And then we moved into the third revolution where we had tools making tools, right? Machines that made parts for other machines, including interchangeable parts. As you take that with the assembly line and moving into where we are now, we're about to go through this again with IoT in the cloud. So just as an example of that advancement that we had, back in the day when, our forefathers went through and plowed the fields to produce the, agriculture and feed the nation, it took about 2 weeks for us to get about 100 bushels of corn. And as we introduce new efficiencies and automation, the effects of that are we cut it in half by 50%. Now, that's throughout technology and in IT for every day of our lives if you're in this space. You see it. You always find a way to get some more time back in your day and focus on other activities, right? You don't focus and get to sit around. But that's what actually happened back in the day. People had time to sit. So the little kid sitting in the field after his dad's plowed it, he was able to think about, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And the times were changing, so they had to go to new places to work, get business, right? Meet their customer. And unfortunately, some of the time, people weren't able to make that change. They weren't able to change and turn and face a new way of doing something, and that created some hardships. It's a lot of what you're hearing people afraid of when we talk about robotics and where we're going. So I like to make sure everyone understands that, while the next revolution will take our digital economy into one with robots and powered by artificial intelligence, we really need to focus on people and ensure that, we're setting them up to be able to participate in, the next industrial revolution that we'll go through. Today's robots are generally big machines that people can't get near. Maybe you see them at your place of business and they're walled off because they don't know that you're there. But the next these are going to be ones that work side by side with you. What we're talking about today with RPA are not really those. When we think about what people are for, today we do a lot of mundane tasks. We do a lot of things that we really don't enjoy doing. I don't think a lot of people get up and go to work and say, I'd love to do data entry for an hour. Now, some do love it, right? But I think many people look to be creative. And that's not always an efficient process. It's inherently inefficient. So one of the things that robots can't do today is decide what people want to do. And that when we're left to ask that question of ourselves, we can go in some pretty interesting areas. So I wanted to walk through this when we talk about the biggest concern. AI will affect a lot of jobs in the future. And so I've broken them down into three areas. Forrester speaks of this through their study around sharing your cubicle with robots, which I think is a good way to look at it. There's existing jobs today. We're going to see transitional employment, and then as we move through in this industrial revolution, we'll have digital age jobs. So some things we're not going to be doing much anymore, and you're going to see a decline in these. This will concern some people, right? But your cubicle-related job where it's professional, management, financial, sales, office, administrative, many of those mundane day-to-day things that we have to do manually today are being automated and will be better suited to provide us the benefit of the functions that we were doing by just having somebody do that for us. Now, there's existing ones that aren't going anywhere that are still in growth, and you see that in healthcare, service-related jobs, things that you need to be in person and connect with people. Those are still going to be growing over time. There's the gig economy, right? So all of your Bitcoin miners out there, Uber drivers, new graphic designers, those types of next-gen type personal touch jobs and physical human activity will still be there. When you get into the obsolescence queue, this is stuff that people traditionally move into when they moved out of their day-to-day activities into, anyone that's worked in a large call center or large business process outsourcer knows. There's the parolees of cubicles where, who's using what, who's doing this. Those will be on the decline. You'll have, insurance agents, folks that a lot of manual entry, a lot of paper, a lot of these are things that we're going to be offloading into folks that are much more accurate with it and much more built to handle those types of jobs. And then we have our new next emerging type digital age jobs. These are highly skilled cloud engineers, data science, app developers. We're going to need new stuff. We're building automation, and that breeds more automation. And unfortunately, people can't keep up with that. We don't have the capacity. So interesting stat that only 42% of Americans with a high school diploma or less say they have the right skills to succeed in the 21st century. I think we're going to see a lot of enablement required to help those folks figure out how do they fit into some of the green boxes there, right? Where can they, transition as they move out of some of the things they were skilled to do today and move themselves over to the right side. That's not to say that I think everyone will get there, and it's very, I believe, very much that we're going to see this type of denial again and again, where people don't think that, a robot can't possibly do what I can do, and come full circle all the way until they're very excited that, they embraced it and brought it on to help them free up their time to focus on what they want to do. When we talk about RPA, we're talking about a software application that replicates the actions of human beings interacting with the user interface of a computer system. So essentially, we're talking about using something like desktop virtualization to provide an environment for a robot, software robot, to interact with that environment and perform tasks that people would have normally done. And when you look at this survey from Forrester, again, they surveyed 105 manager level or above from various types of businesses and lines, and they found 73% of the firms that will find digital workers very valuable, or valuable that support internal employees. That's really, really good to see, because one of the biggest fears that people have when I talk about this with them is, well, what is this going to do to people if we start introducing these types of concepts to them? Well, I think the majority of folks realize there needs to be a change. They're seeing the competition out there, and if this is a way to help them free up to do the other activities to grow their business, they're going to invest in it, and they're going to explore it and figure out how can we adopt and make that happen for us. There's a couple different types of robotic RPA. The first one is attended. This is a robot that sits alongside you, right, and helps you get things done. Usually agent-led activities, so call centers do this today, right? They'll reach out for help, and something will give them back a piece of information. Maybe it's seen to them, maybe it's not. Unattended, this is automation that completely replaces the function. So this is at a level where there are so many tasks to be done in a finite period of time that no matter how many people you throw at it, you'll never get caught up, or you need such good results and reliability and accuracy that you don't want to introduce risk, because remember that the biggest issue that comes up when things don't work are generated by people. So you're taking that piece out of it where you don't have somebody making a gut call on which way to go, and they're following a very Boolean type, although complex, but true or false mentality of, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? Or how am I going to do this? And then there's the hybrid, right? And that's where I think many of us may have experienced it today, where we do something, but we may rely on another system to give us a piece of information and work together so that it's some back-end unattended stuff that's happening, and then also that system that sits right there with us helping us through our day. If you look at this architecture for where people are accessing devices today, it's cloud, it's also on-premise, it's different types of hardware and infrastructure underneath. There's different types of applications and many different types of devices, including unattended devices like vending machines or cars at times, right, that are providing data back through different means. When we look at this and break it down, we're removing that device piece where someone's accessing the app to access the data and interact with it. And as you scale that out amongst different environments, whether that's a VMware cluster of Windows 10 machines running VDI, or a Citrix application running on lots of servers, some running in the cloud from Google, running other web services inside of Amazon that connects maybe to Oracle, hits a Docker container, and then authenticates against Active Directory, you can do this from on-premise or cloud workloads and dynamically allocate jobs based on who a machine or user or whether it's a certain process that you want to have in a segmented area, right? This is very powerful when you look to change how you're operating your business for your customers. When you look at some of the other data, large percentage, right, more than half believe that it's a good thing to bring digital workers in. There's always going to be those that are a little concerned, right? This is a tough concept. You're seeing this today as you have different data breaches, and people are wondering how are they getting this data, and how is it, people are potentially weaponizing, right, in some sense. That's going to require us to defend more, and unfortunately, people are going to have a tough time keeping up with that. So as we transform, what we're really seeing is that this nimble innovation is allow businesses to compete at a level that previously they might not have been able to. All right, you're going to have better ways of working and increased productivity. Your model that you create from a business will not be what it always has been. You can think about it a little differently, figure out if you can get an edge, and create some more revenue for the organization, and then also allow you to maybe do more for your customers at the end of the day, whether that's processing files behind the scenes for them, analyzing a credit report without having that manual intervention to get you through stage 1 or 2, and create an interesting way of engaging with them, right? Whether that's through chat or video or at the end of the day is what's driving us. The fact that we push our technology teams as users to do more for us will force them to do more. And that either means growing staff, which I'm not hearing a lot of folks growing their staff in IT operations. They're asking them to get more efficient and use creative methods to support their staff, existing staff. When we look at creating digital workspaces, you can harness that and be able to transform how you're providing that business benefit back. Some closing thoughts that I have for all of you is that many of you will think of this as, oh, we're racing against the machines. That's not a strategy that will lead to good things. We need to race with them. They're much faster than us, and we will lose at the end of the day. There will be a line that becomes very blurry as to what we do and what they do. But just know that anything that you don't enjoy doing today that seems like drudgery, the accountants are going to hand that off to a robot to do. And that might be tough to hear, but it's really important to embrace it, because the faster that you do, you can start taking advantage of the time you're going to get back and start thinking about new ways to invent yourself and continue to explore this great world of IT. So the robots are coming. Keep calm, and remember that everything is possible in the land of make-believe. This is a saying that I've used throughout my career to ensure I stay sharp, and I implore you to do the same. With that, I want to thank you for your time today and hope you found this informational.
Thanks, everybody, for attending. For further information on RPA processes, you can check out the SMP blog or reach out to SMP directly.